What made you go to the stock exchange?
Right. So I think I give. So there's a silly answer and a serious answer. The silly answer is that I don't want my children to come and screw it up. Right now, they're great kids so far. They're very small, 16 and 17. But I think there's a higher, there's a known rule about 70% of your next generation will mess up your business, and there is a 90% chance of your third generation, which means my grandchild will definitely mess this up if I give it in a platter to them. So if we have certain structures, certain governance, certain liability, credibility built around it, it's very difficult for somebody to come and mess it up, right? So I wanted strength in the board and all that. That's the silly reason. But the more serious reason is that I wanted to raise money where I had only 3 choices, because the e-commerce market is growing like phenomenally well for us. We've been growing 100% year on year, which means we have to raise money to scale up. So either you have to go to a bank and borrow, or you have to go to a rich guy and get him to invest in Kapuga, or you go to the stock market. Right? These are the only 3 ways of raising funds. So I didn't want to do the bank borrowing thing. It makes sense because you are kind of at that limit, and if you borrow, that's all you're going to get, right? But I didn't want to get an investor to come in as well, because all he's going to think about is exit, right? If you get an external investor to come and invest in your company, he's going to sit on your board, and all he's going to keep thinking, how do I exit? How do I multiply this and exit this company? I didn't want that kind of thinking in a creative company like that. So that's where I thought, wow, yes, such a big bull run here, and there is not a single e-commerce company is capable of going to the stock market in Sri Lanka, because to go to the stock market you have to be profitable. So we had that power. So therefore I chose that.
Very good evening and a warm welcome to another session in this series of Meeting an Expert. We are aware that we do have a nationwide challenge that we are facing, but amid all those challenges, thank you very much everyone who had come on board today. So let me warmly welcome all of you, dear students, and all our members who are joining from different counterpart universities, from UK, from Australia, and of course from Thailand, and all the other distinguished guests, foreign delegates and diplomats who are joining us from different parts of the world. So on behalf of Asia Pacific Institute of Information Technology, as APIT Sri Lanka, let me warmly welcome all of you to the session today, where we will be meeting another veteran in the corporate world who will be able to share a lot of information with us, not just the theories that are in the books, but I'm sure will be a very engaging, interesting discussion to understand how the changes in the world takes place from the perspective of a veteran. So having said that, let me hand over the session to Dr. Rohantha Tukorala. Dr. Rohantha, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kaushali, and sincerely appreciate for stepping in. I know things are not perfect, but so we have a very honored guest today. A very well-known, very highly successful Sri Lankan serial entrepreneur. He's known as the king of e-commerce in Sri Lanka. He's the founder and chairman of Sri Lanka's largest e-commerce organization. Over the years, he has been instrumental in exploring further opportunities by founding so many other options like the Global Shop and setting up the chain of coffee shops named Java Lounge in Colombo. He's a co-founder of the Grasshoppers, an e-commerce logistics enterprise to underpin all the e-commerce ventures in the country. It was in the year 2010 that this eminent person started recognizing his amazing skill, knowledge, and the entrepreneur talent, where he won the award for the Young Sri Lankan Entrepreneur of the Year. And in addition, he has won numerous awards, including Asia Pacific Young Entrepreneur Award in 2013, Sri Lankan Entrepreneur of the Year once again in 2017, the CSSL ICT Leader of the Year in 2010, and then subsequently the most coveted Eisenhower Fellowship by the president of the Eisenhower Foundation in the USA in 2017. He secured the Sri Lankan country account for Amazon.com in 2017, where local produce can now be sold on global platforms via the unique cross-border e-commerce fulfillment of network. In 2018, he was presented with the Management Leadership Award from the Chartered Institute of Professional Management and also the Asia Pacific Entrepreneur Award in the retail category. In 2019, he was recognized as the Yakada Miniha of Sri Lanka in a campaign launched by the Ministry of Megapolis and the Western Development called Pannaraya. He recently secured the country's account for Amazon.com for Sri Lanka, where now local produce could be sold on global platforms via the unique cross-border e-commerce fulfillment network. Ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the fantastic entrepreneur, lovely human being. I know him personally, the chairman and the founder of Cuprocker.com, a company which is now listed in the stock exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, Dulith Herath. Dulith, over to you.
Thank you, Rohanta and the team. Why I love to commit my time for events like this is if I can inspire at least a handful of entrepreneurs a month into Sri Lanka who will try some new idea or get into, at least start thinking about quitting their day job and, starting your own venture. That's what really a country needs. If you look at most of the, tier 1, tier 2 kind of countries, you would see the number of entrepreneurs in those countries are above 5%, and some countries like Japan, it's 18%, so very high numbers. But in Sri Lanka, it's right now around 1%, which is also not a bad opportunity. Bad thing for upcoming entrepreneurs, because it's very hard to be an entrepreneur in a country where 7% of the population is entrepreneurs. So in Sri Lanka, it's at 1%. So there's all that reason for people to be entrepreneurs. So if my stories, or if the way I think, or if anything from my lifestyle that I can, share with communities like you all, that is really my payment, or the reason why I want to commit my time, and why I know Rohanta personally, so I wouldn't have been able to say no anyway. But regardless, that's the primary reason, is that I want to acknowledge, hoping to see more entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka. Let me try to share my screen. I have a few slides that I want to go through, and then we'll jump into some questions that Rohanta has. Give me 1 minute. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes,
can somebody confirm?
Can see
Okay.
Dulith.
Excellent. Okay. So, what I have been good at is understanding. I will get into business models. Understanding certain types of business models and building businesses out of those. So I'm going to take 4 companies that I have built, and these 4 companies use completely 4 different business models. So this way, for you guys, these MBA guys, to really understand the business model and apply that to build a business is very technical, and it's a very proven path of building a successful business than just working on a simple gut idea and randomly trying things. If you have a business model, it makes all the sense. So first one is very simple. It's the e-commerce business model. Now, e-commerce business model is super simple. Let's take this water bottle. Okay, you go to if you go to Apico today, this water bottle is sold at 185 rupees. It has MRP on it. And now Apico buys this at a certain price, but the overheads that Apico has to sell this water bottle is, you have to pay the rent, the electricity, all the stuff that's working there, the security guard out there, the property rent, the massive infrastructure that they had to put in for at least one outlet. So they have multiple outlets. So and you have to move the stock around these outlets. So if you really look at after the GP line, after you make the margin on the water bottle, rest is pretty long list. Okay. So I'm just trying to very briefly explain what e-com is. And it's really, I'm trying to prove that this is absolutely no rocket science. Anybody can get into this and do it very easily. So look at Kapruko again. I have the same water bottle, right? Now, my overheads are very different from Apico's overhead. I have this sitting in a dusty warehouse, but I have a very glossy picture on the website saying, oh, here's the water bottle. It's so same price as what Apico is selling at. Now, my costs are very different. I have a central warehouse. I have the delivery network to do the home delivery. And this is not going to come on its own. It's going to have other people's orders also on that same truck when it is doing the delivery. So there are efficiencies of scale coming in. And now simply I can sell the water bottle 5 rupees cheaper than Apico because I have those margins to do that. The moment that happens, it's a pricing game, right? People, especially the newer generation, will tend to first look online before they go offline. So in Sri Lanka today, only 1% of retail is online. Okay, that's a great opportunity. That's one of the reasons we went public for Kapruko, because there's such a big runway in Sri Lanka for e-commerce, which means if you take 10 people, only one guy is still shopping online. All the other 9 guys are still going to the shop, still going to the polar, still goes to the traditional ways of going and picking something from a shop. So I can, at least if I get one more guy out of the 9 to convert to e-commerce, industry has grown by 100%. It went from 1 to 2. That's 100% growth. So you understood the pricing, the advantage that e-commerce has, and you understood that the runway in e-com is really long. So that is my business model. And I said, I'm going to talk about 4 business models, and I'm going to talk about 4 different companies. So Kapruka is that company, which is in the e-com business model. Let me go to the next one. So next one, I call it the business process simplification business model. What I do here is you find a process that is difficult and you simplify it, and that's your business. Great example, Uber. The process earlier was you need to go to the street, wait for a tuk, or you call kangaroo cabs, give them directions, and wait for it to show up. The process was complicated now that you look at it, right? You got to wait out in the sun. You may find the most random guy, though you have to give them directions. They say every direction every day. So I don't need to even go through it. You understand that previous process was very hard. So Uber came, simplified it, right? Now you're sitting in your house, ordering the cab and getting out just 5 seconds before the cab shows up in front of your house. You didn't give directions. You have to carry cash. So I don't need to and even your destination is already put in. So it came and simplified it, right? And that became the business. So here again, I will give you an example where I have built a business called Kapruka Global Shop. All it did was really taken a complex business and simplified it. So the business is that there are these SMEs and individuals who wants to buy products from Amazon, eBay, and AliExpress. So what was the barriers? What is the complex? If you want to directly order today from Amazon and eBay, etc., there are 3 main barriers, right? So one is we have the customs. So if you're ordering, like let's say you're ordering a laptop from Amazon, there's a good chance that you're going to have to go to customs yourself and clear it, because the courier may not be able to clear it if it is an expensive items. I even marked one guy in gray there because he's corrupt. Right? It's nothing wrong with Sri Lanka. It's how in developing countries such organizations are corrupt. So you have to have a part of your the day or there's luck involved, right? Who you are going to meet, how you are going to negotiate it, or all that. That's why it's great. So the second one is about the shipping is very expensive because Amazon will have to fly that laptop just for you into Sri Lanka through DHL or UPS. That can be very expensive. The laptop is $400. The shipping can be $180, right? That kills the deal. The third one is about the regulations. So today, if you want to buy let's say you want to order whey protein or you want to buy a multivitamin, or you want to buy like a phone that is not TRC approved here in Sri Lanka. And it gets stuck at regulation, and then you don't know how to clear it, right? So these are the three barriers, like that took you have to call kangaroo and wait for the cab to show up and give them directions. Those barriers in this business model, these three things that I showed you in the middle of the screen are the barriers. So let me show you the simplification I did. So I built something called a price simulator, an import simulator software in Kapruka, and called it Kapruka Global Shop Price Checker. So if you put a link in here to any Amazon product today, I immediately detect the HS code, that is the import code of the product, and I show you the breakdown of it. I say okay, you found the product for, now in this case, it is a projector. You find a product for $310. I tell you the duty is going to be $37, and I say shipping is 16, and you're like, how come it's 16? Amazon wanted $100. I say 16 because I have a warehouse in the US set up to take the projector out of the big box, and it compresses it with the other people's orders. So now I can fly a big box from New Jersey, US to Sri Lanka for $6 per pound. So you get a massive discount on the shipping there. And we sell, our fee is $14 there. That is our processing fee, and that's our profit. And I give you a total price there and say, okay, this is it, no surprises. And we will hand deliver this to your house. You're not going to have to go to customs. You're not going to have to deal with Amazon. You deal with us now. We buy from Amazon on behalf of you. We bring you the item to your house. So we really simplified it. And that's all this global shop business model is. I've taken a complex problem and simplified it. And now the whole company has only 15 employees, including the CEO of that company. So it's really a very, very lean company, and it has been growing really well in the last 3 years, especially because there are so many limitations on what you can bring into Sri Lanka now. So a lot of people use us as a channel, because we have a large credit line with Amazon. So therefore we can open such LCs, etc., and keep bringing things into Sri Lanka. So I talked about two business models: the e-commerce business model and the price simplification business model. The third one I want to talk about is the gig economy business model. So for that, the company I want to use is Grasshoppers. What a gig economy is that this, again, Uber is a great example. You have on-demand stuff. That means you are going to utilize existing resources on a shared basis. That means that resource is not going to sit there just waiting for your business where you have to pay a fixed rent. It'll turn on when it's needed, when it'll turn off and stop billing you when it's not needed. So that's really the gig economy. Now, what I have created out of this is a large-scale island-wide delivery network for packages, e-commerce packages. What you're seeing on the screen is, so we have 4 to 6 hubs around the country for delivery. And the one you're seeing is our Kurunegala hub. Now, you know how much we spent to put this hub? The guy there in the blue shirt is called Prakash, and he's the manager there. To put up this hub, it cost us about only 7,000 rupees, because only thing we put up there was our sign, nothing else. And this is an existing tuition class. So the hub manager of that, we call him the Grasshopper boss. He runs, his full-time job was running a maths class in this location. This is near a temple. And on the side, he is running a delivery network for us. So he has 3 or 4 bike riders that he has hired himself. And when Grasshoppers has a package to be delivered in Kurunegala, I send it to him. He figures out how to do the last mile delivery in his area. And Grasshoppers has no rent payment here, no electricity payment here. We only pay him a fixed fee, and he's utilizing the location for other things as well. So we've done it all around the country. So there are about 46 hubs like this around the country that covers every inch. Now the advantage here is we can give you a much better pricing compared to, let's say, Pronto or DHL. Like, for example, let's say Pronto, like they will have hubs that are owned by them, where they pay a property rent, where they have a full-time security, where they have fixed staff, all that. Whereas Grasshoppers is only like the whole company is like 35 employees, again, including the CEO of the company, and super lightweight. And, so you are competing with an elephant, right? The problem with elephants like DHL, etc., you can't turn elephants. It's very difficult to turn them. The grasshopper is, very lightweight. He hops from hub to hub, and it's run on the gig economy. So I'm really simplifying these the business model. So again, now up to three now. One is the e-commerce. Second one, we talked about business simplification, which is global shop. Now I talked about the gig economy business model. Now three, and next one or the last one is about this price simplification business model. So again, the company for this example is called Cross Border that I started about 2.5 years ago. What you do here is you find a product that is on the market and you cut the price by half. So it's not easy to cut the price by half, right? But if you actually manage to do that, suddenly your sale will just go like a rocket, right? That's what McDonald's did long time back. When McDonald's came, fast food was not a thing. Self-serving was not a thing, right? But they said, okay, our menu has only 4 burgers. We are not going to come to your table and serve you. You can only pick from out of these 4 choices, but we are 50% off regular restaurant burger. That was their proposition. And that built that entire fast food and that McDonald's kind of industry about self-serving, lower prices, simple choices, but half the price, right? So that's what I did. So we went to Amazon US and Amazon Canada, and we were looking for Sri Lankan products. So we found this example where Dilma tea. This is sold for $39, right? This is an older screenshot. So whoever was selling Dilma tea on Amazon was selling for $39. Now, it's this same Dilma tea at Food City in Sri Lanka, same product, same UVC barcode. It's about 400, 390 some rupees. So that's like, it's a huge price difference with the Amazon price. And already there is people buying. Look, we have 51 reviews even when you took that screenshot. And it's sold by some company called 5 Star Shop, as you can see on the screenshot. So we went in, we signed up a few deals with Dilma. We sourced the product from Sri Lanka. We managed to set up a warehouse in the US, and we cut the price by half. So this $39 product, we were able to sell it for $29. We didn't have to go to like $5. We could have, but you don't need to go that deep. You cut the price by half. And the moment you did that, all the other sellers dropped off. These are other sellers who had been, kind of sourcing them from other supermarkets and trying to sell them again on Amazon. So we went direct. So and so we did the same thing for a lot of other brands. Right now so to link Samahan to Akbar tea to the Dankotu porcelain to we have a large number of brands that we are actually bringing in after the IPO project. Actually, we are very gung-ho about this process, about having more Sri Lankan established brands to be sold on global platforms like Amazon and eBay. But again, the price, the business model here is price simplification, nothing else. So that's it, guys. I mean, this is what I really wanted to talk about, and that show you 4 business models and 4 companies that I have successfully built over time. I mean, Kapruk is still the biggest by far, but I think the last one I showed you, my cross-border project, it could even become bigger here. With that, you might wonder whether there are any more ideas left. I mean, that's something that all the entrepreneurs think like, then everybody has tried so many things. Is there anything left here for me to try? Yes, there is always, because look, you don't need to reinvent and create like a globally unique idea. Okay, you can always find a business that is running well in another country and see if it applies here locally. And don't be ashamed of thinking, I copied a company that was in India, or I copied an idea that was in Nepal. Look, it's like Mr. Walmart guy said, I mean, you can take anything and improve it. You can take anything and localize it. If you look at PickMe today in Sri Lanka, what they did was they looked at Uber and they localized and created a good second player. So there's nothing wrong with that. So there is this Carfax, Gruhanis, Double Bubble. These are things that I'm working on these days that are, there's nothing like that I can go and globally patent. These are companies that exist in other countries, but I think it's lacking here in Sri Lanka, so I want to bring it down here. Yeah, this is a picture that I just want to show you with me with there. This is very old days when I had 2 employees in Kapruka when I first started Kapruka. And until a month ago, until we went public, we have not raised a single cent to do all these companies. What we've done was, with our own profits, we have built businesses from zero to these levels, which means everybody in this audience today, everybody listening to this talk, cannot have an excuse to say, okay, so Dulith had that, or he had parents' money, or excuses like that. You can't have it. I started from zero, and all I had was, I was a software engineer at Microsoft. All I had was my salary. It's a regular salary. It was not like some senior job. It was I was just a programmer, and that's the seed money I used to build Kapruka up to this level. Until we went public, we have never raised a single cent. So that's the story and the 4 business models. Back over to you, Dr. Rohan.
Thank you very much, Dulith. Amazing story. I mean, it's easy for corporate people to come and talk, but when you have built the business from scratch, the satisfaction that you get and the believability of the story is so strong. I mean, really fantastic. Thank you sincerely for coming over.
Thank you.
Some very interesting questions have come from different people on the program. I mean, some of the people who are studying on the master's program, Dulitha, people from UAE, from Singapore, Mauritius, Seychelles. There's 2 from Switzerland, Vietnam, and Myanmar. So it's a cross section of people who are.
What's the size of the total audience, roughly?
400 plus. 400 plus. Okay. And so what we see is that this whole pandemic has made the world very much more smaller. And I mean, those days you had to come to class and you had to go and study, but now you can stay in your own home and you're studying. So it's a very interesting, some very interesting questions have also come. The first question is coming, and it says, how do you run a business with such uncertainty, like today on the power issue?
Okay, so what I always try to look at the positivity of any problem. So the power issue is not only to me, it applies to everybody. The import issue applies to everybody. The dollar issue applies to everybody. So the moment a common problem comes and blankets a market, I see how I can, use that to, stand out. Like, for example, we are trying to make sure that all the Java launchers will have a generator, right? So I will, out of that, you might make it sounds like, look, he doesn't care about problems. He just wants to build better businesses. But if everybody thinks like that, then the problem also becomes an opportunity. So there will be people coming at 3 o'clock to Java launchers, knowing that there'll be a 6 o'clock power cut, and he's going to stay through and have dinner and leave because I have a generator, right? So if you really, but if this was only to a certain sector, if power cut was done only to a certain area where it only comes to me, then it becomes a real problem. We might have to change stuff. So my advice is, don't get depressed by these stuff. And then I always hope that these are short-term things that will completely go away once the tourism starts. I know Rohanta really wants that to keep happening. He promotes Sri Lanka, I promote Sri Lanka. I have 2 permanent residencies in 2 tier 1 countries, but I very happily choose to live here in Sri Lanka. And hopefully these problems will go away, and we'll have better challenges to deal with than these like stupid challenges like no power.
So, interesting question, Dulith. If you were asked to advise the president today, what what will be your advice? I mean, you're a entrepreneur of the year, twice running, studied on the Eisenhower Scholarship in the US, and of course, you started business from scratch. So you have a right to advise.
Yeah, so that's a tricky question. I think the best advice I would tell him is to be himself and not to listen to too much external advice in the first place, because we all have an authenticity in us, right? And Rohant, you have a certain authenticity, you have a certain thinking pattern, and you have a certain gut feeling about how things should be. And if I have voted for you, I wanted your way, your real, your way of things happen, not how it happens by what other people keep telling you every day. I think Imran Khan is a great example of that, right? I mean, he became very popular by standing really gung ho about his decision, right? Okay, I think he kind at the beginning he was very unpopular because he was ignoring all advice, and he was no, I think I should do this. I think I do this. So I wish our leaders also manage that authenticity. So we are dealing with one person. It's not like, okay, I'm dealing with one person who listens to 100 other people, right? So that will be my advice. Protect your authenticity.
I mean, that's superb, Dulith. But then the question is that we see so much of negativity in the marketplace. I mean, which are not actually media driven, but is absolutely real. The fertilizer issue, we know that was a wrong decision. Very clear. 32 professors have said that they are not going to advise to be done for overnight change. There is so much of continuous corruption which is blatantly done, and it's not just again media, but it's with proof, facts, data of governance issues. So in this background, what is your real honest advice to a MBA student? Because as you know, a guy who comes to study for the MBA, Dulith, is a person who says, I want to grow. I yet believe in that we could make this a success. I know I can grow. I can buy a house which fits my dream. I would like to drive a car which so they have aspirations. What is your honest advice to a youngster?
So if you take a baby MBA guy and I give him this, I would say, if I had to pick one thing, I would tell him that think about at least for at least an hour a day, while you do everything else, your MBA, your day job, your family life, all that, you come up with that business idea and make it like a plant in your house. It's like this business idea sitting next to me all the time on my table. It just keeps staring at me like my clock, right? And water it and keep believing, like, to see that, okay, tomorrow this can grow a little bit better. It might have a flower one day. Really treat your business idea as a plant. And if you look at the flow examples I gave you, let's keep Kapruka aside because you can call it a one-off. It became very successful on its own because the industry was growing, all that. But if you actually look at even the other three, I can still remember them being in that pot next to my laptop on a napkin, right? It was nothing but just a diagram and little bit of an idea around it. But I kept spending time on it, right? The moment that Kapruka became stable, I gave it to the leadership and I picked the next spot and spending more and more focused time on it. So if your students can come up with an idea, it can be any idea. It doesn't need to be tech, right? Some of the, like one thing that we are doing these days is called double bubble, where two guys come to your house and wash your car for 300 rupees. There's no rocket science in it, right? But I wanted to do that because I know all the departments are coming up and it's very difficult for the department people, especially to wash their cars. So it's a problem is solved. Zero tech, WhatsApp, that's it, no apps, nothing, right? So it was on a napkin, sitting next to my table, and I'm now slowly growing it up and building the team around it to come having fun with it. So if your MBA students also have that napkin always next to you with that idea, at least some of them, that may be your ticket out into that mega dream. Like buy whatever you want, buy whatever the car you want one day, right? Buy whatever the house and rent it out, buy a bigger house. All those bigger dreams will not come out of your day salary, right? The biggest person you can become using your day salary is, you can become a director of a company. But then how much can you make? A director in a company will make about, I don't know, like a maximum about 2 million a month, right? If you're in a bigger company. But is that enough to buy whatever you want? That's not going to give you total financial freedom. 2 million is not going to do that. But if you actually do this napkin idea and actually have a company that's going to be, valued at 400, 500 million one day, that may be your ticket out to financial independence.
So what made you get into this industry, Dulith? I mean, when you were at Microsoft, sitting in that room, obviously you would have wanted to become, you're a software engineer. So, you also had aspirations when you joined that organization. So what made you then get into this whole area of e-commerce, and what really triggered you here?
No, so to begin with, it's like I had two choices. I had to either become a software engineer, which was my trained profession, and I wanted to be a physicist. That was my passion for physics from childhood. And the third was, have my own platform where I can create my dreams. So that's entrepreneurship. The moment I went into my Microsoft job, I remember it was not a rosy picture. It was a depression picture for me because I felt like I'm in a box. There are, it's like a beehive. I'm just a serial number. I'm so replaceable. If I leave today, tomorrow there'll be another Dulith sitting in the same chair. It was like, is this the end of it? Kind of thing, right? And I saw the corporate ladders. Everybody's lined up to climb these ladders. It was not a pretty sight. So that's how I started growing that plant next to me and focusing on that, so that can be my ticket out. That's the thinking behind it.
So is it easy to do business in Sri Lanka?
I think it is actually. If you tell me to do any of the, now I gave you 4 company examples. If I'm to do this in India, no way in hell I'll be successful. If I'm to do this in Pakistan, no way. Like tomorrow morning, there'll be 100 other guys copying me. The competition will be cutthroat, right? I think Sri Lanka is that right size for a small entrepreneur to really focus and even fly under the radar until your business kind of molds into something more sustainable and grow it. I love the size of Sri Lanka. So, I mean, especially starting digital businesses, you don't need any special supports. I mean, you have the internet, you have everybody having access to the internet. There's your audience. You just build stuff on it. So I think it's easy. We should not talk about these days because you can have from power cuts to the dollar issues to all that will come in. But if you look at the next 5 years ahead of you, this is a place I would always continue to do business.
So where are you going to go in another 7 years' time? 5 to 7 years.
7 years. Okay, so it's a long time. I think I would like to, in about, I would say 7 to 10 years, I would like to step back and believe in the next generation and let guys like you run the company. And I can be playing a role at more into business transformation because, every 5 years, you need to really, every 3 to 5 years, you have to really keep transforming your business to the future. Otherwise, no matter how good your business is, you can be outdated, right? I love to play a transformation role where I see people and champions like, you guys in the audience, run the company.
So you are a very respected entrepreneur. I mean, people from overseas always one day when they want to send something, it's Kapruka. I mean, it's a top of the mind brand. Um, how, how do you, how can you help a young entrepreneur, Dulith? I mean, for instance, I was actually stunned how you shared all your details on what you're doing, which a lot of people don't do that. You know, they like to keep things to themselves, but it was so nice and to see how you share things. And, it gave a very nice feeling for an MBA student to know that, they've been absolutely transparent in what you're doing. So how can you support and help a youngster do it?
Right. So if I see a youngster who has a great idea, plus he has already put in that first few steps of serious effort into building it, that's a very important point for me. I don't want somebody to come and tell me like, look, I want to be an entrepreneur, tell me what to do. Or somebody to come and tell like, I have this idea, what do you think about it? I will not have the bandwidth to help a person like that, because there's a majority of the people are like that. They all want to be successful. They all also maybe want their own business and all that, but they haven't made the next few steps. So if somebody comes to me and says, look, I had this idea, I collected some money from friends and family, and I have built a prototype of it. Now it is generating 2 orders a day, but I know it can do 100 orders a day. How can you help me? Right? If I get a guy coming to me, approaching me like this, I will commit time. I will talk to him. I've done this a lot to many entrepreneurs. Most of them who reach out to me fail the first test itself. I say, okay, why didn't you send me an email to follow up? You never get that email. That's the cutoff. Right? If you can't even sit down and write your email and try to reach out to you, then that's you disqualify immediately. But if you actually follow up and come after me and like really try to make an appointment, you see the drive in the guy, I will gladly, in any way I could. It can be multiple ways. I can connect you to businesses. I can help you to get funding. I can help you to, co-brand, all sort of stuff, right? That I'll do it, but you have to make that first step yourself.
So how, I mean, you when you go on Eisenhower scholarship, you tend to meet all the most powerful people in the US, and that's part of that scholarship per se.
Yeah.
And they say that network is the new currency of the world, and it's not the money that you have. So how can you support the country in the current foreign exchange issue? Is there some, what would be the role that you could play?
Right. So right now we are already doing this thing about selling Sri Lankan produce on global e-commerce platforms. But we are having 2 main products in Sri Lanka that is heavily underutilized. So did you know that we are the largest cinnamon? This is not Ceylon cinnamon, just cinnamon, largest cinnamon exporter to the world. Number 1, right? That's a huge statement. But we only got like 100 million, or like it's peanuts compared to what you can actually get out of a product like that, because we don't value add, right? We only sell them up here, we export, and the same product, somebody who actually makes the final product will sell it for 100 times more price range, right? But if you look at a product like Dilma, right, you get a premium price into Sri Lanka, because the end product out of our raw tea that was grown here, packaged, branded, put it in top class, 5-star hotels to the, I don't even talk about Dilma. We all know where it stands today, because there was that entrepreneur who built that brand, right? If you remove that entrepreneur, imagine how much of money Sri Lanka will lose, because we'll be just exporting tea in bags, not under a brand. So that's what I'm trying to build. So actually, Kapruka is these days working on Kapruka cinnamon range itself, and I'm trying to build a brand for cinnamon, and sell cinnamon on global e-commerce platform, including in Russia, in United Arab Emirates, and India, Canada, US, all these markets. because not many people have access to the online digital markets. They can put a Sri Lankan product in a supermarket, but putting out an online market is a specialty that we have. So that's what I'm working on primarily. If you talk about helping the foreign exchange.
Going back to 21 years old, and you have to advise young Dulith. What advice would you give at 21 years to Dulith?
I'll tell the small Dulith that he should learn to delegate more. That's still a weakness I have. I try to like really get into details and stuff that I can easily delegate. I end up doing myself. Sometimes because I enjoy it too much. Like even, I mean, every day I still code, and everybody asks me, why do you still code for 2 hours a day when you can? Because it's something I enjoy. I keep it close to my heart. So there are pieces of code that I don't even want to give it. No, leave it to me. I want to do this, right? So I'm very so that leave aside coding, but even other stuff that I think back in the days, if I had been delegating more and more, I would have gone further. But I'm trying to improve on it. That's one main thing I would tell the little Dulith.
Thank you very much. So beautiful talking to you. And I mean, sorry, I just have one more question. I mean, sure. What made you go to the stock exchange?
Right. So I think I give. So there's a silly answer and a serious answer. The silly answer is that I don't want my children to come and screw it up. Right now, they're great kids so far. I think they're very small, 16 and 17. But I think there's a higher, there's a known rule about 70% of your next generation will mess up your business. And there's a 90% chance of your third generation, which means my grandchild will definitely mess this up if I give it in a platter to them. So if we have certain structures, certain governance, certain liability, credibility built around it, it's very difficult for somebody to come and mess it up, right? So I wanted strength in the board and all that. That's the silly reason. But the more serious reason is that I wanted to raise money where I had only 3 choices, because the e-commerce market is growing like phenomenally well for us. We've been growing 100% year on year, which means we have to raise money to scale up. So either you have to go to a bank and borrow, or you have to go to a rich guy and get him to invest in Kapruga, or you go to the stock market, right? These are the only 3 ways of raising funds. So I didn't want to do the bank borrowing thing. It makes sense because you are kind of at that limit, and if you borrow, that's all you're going to get, right? But I didn't want to get an investor to come in as well, because all he's going to think about is exit, right? If you get an external investor to come and invest in your company, he's going to sit on your board, and all he's going to keep thinking, how do I exit? How do I multiply this and exit this company? I didn't want that kind of thinking in a creative company like Kapruga. So that's where I thought, wow, there's such a big bull run today, and there is not a single like a e-commerce company is capable of going to the stock market in Sri Lanka, because to go to stock market, you have to be profitable. So we had that power. So therefore, I chose that path.
Fantastic, Dulith. And it's a classic case study of a person who has a dream and who realizes that if you tend to work hard, you can make that dream a reality. I mean, we have heard of Kapruga, but I never imagined that Kapruga will be in the stock exchange. I mean, it's fantastic. Thank you very much. And Kaushali, over to you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Indeed, as we always say, this is the information, this is the knowledge that we cannot take in a textbook. And I'm so thankful on behalf of Apit Sri Lanka to Mr. Dulith for coming on board today and then sharing your personal experiences, challenges with us, which will, I'm sure, give our students the motivation and inspiration for them to continue the work that they want to. So with that, we come to an end of another session. And amid the challenges, there have been many calls asking for the opportunity to rewatch this. So we also want to assure that the recording of the discussion is available for anyone to reach out. And it's also available in the social media platforms if you have missed it. So having said that, we will meet back again in another week's time. So do take care until then, and good night from Sri Lanka.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. And if you need any more ways of reaching out to me, please reach out to me on Twitter. That's the best way to get through. And happy to help any upcoming entrepreneur. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.